We are here. It is Fireball the Gazebo with your 8-int wizards, Vince and John. Vince, how you doing today, bud?
Oh, I am fantastic. I am very excited that we are finally doing this. We have been teasing this, talking about it, dreaming about it for so long, but we are here to do an RPG podcast and bring our, I don't know, 70 years of role-playing experience to other people. We've seen a lot and we've learned a little, and we're ready to
Yeah,
share.
I think that's the best way to put it, truly, is it's not that we know what the hell we're doing or that we're experts in anything other than just trying to make our games as fun as possible and trying to learn and share instead of us just talking to each other about our own woes and high moments in our campaigns. It's also about, let's see if other people would kind of learn from this or have some fun with it as well.
Yeah, to quote a very wise man, I have a lot of opinions, and it's time for you people to hear every one of them. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so we've got the reality is you and I talk about RPGs a lot. Like as we would sit together painting, we would just be talking about RPGs a lot, stuff we ran into, stuff we liked, stuff that frustrated us, and we realized that we really have been playing these games for more than 30 years each, and it's just been the thing that you often see in discussions on the web and questions that come up in newer players, the same sorts of mistakes and trials and travails. And so we just want to, share our own experience with people and hopefully it helps.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many great like live play shows out there. And there's also a smattering of podcasts or YouTube channels that talk about like maximizing your character or building your character in the best, most overpowered way, which is something we're going to get into in our main topic today. But we were like the kinds of conversations that we have and things that we end up laughing about while we're kind of reminiscing from our games or planning for our own campaigns is like, I wish there was some of that out there. And so I guess we're just going to make it happen. And I think the name of our actual little key organization here, the 8-int Wizards, which are recruiting currently. We are open to having more join our ranks. Um,
Hit
as I wrote
subscribe, join the 8-inch wizard gang. That's right. Absolutely.
but the thing was, is like, as I wrote that down in a little bit of the show notes today, I wrote down 8-int Wizards, and to me, that sounds like a comedy troupe that goes to all the Renaissance fairs in a
Sure.
variety of states, and they do some silly magic and tell like crude jokes. Doesn't that sound like them?
It does. I loved it when you proposed 8-int wizards. What I loved about it was I'm currently, as our viewers will certainly come to know over the intervening weeks and months of this podcast, right now on a second edition Dungeons and Dragons kick, as well as some advanced D&D. But anyways, in that particular game, the minimum requirement for being a wizard was you had to have a 9 intelligence, which like nobody would actually play a wizard with a 9 intelligence. So I just thought you made that as an intentional joke that somehow we're wizards, but we skated through. We got the diploma on the D minus.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, technically, we didn't qualify for wizard school, but there was some kind of strings pulled, and
Right.
we got in.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much us. Also, the 8-int wizard does kind of also run in line with our main topic today, as well as you all may be kind of theorizing in your own head right now. What would an 8-int wizard look like or play like at the table? And I'm gonna tell you right now, it sounds amazing, doesn't it?
I mean, it sounds very funny. As someone who has played not never an 8 intelligence wizard, but certainly a lower intelligence wizard in an all wizard game, I can tell you that it was actually incredibly fun. So yes, I mean, we're going to talk about characters and flaws. Well, let's give people a little breakdown of John, what should they expect in this and future episodes
Oh,
of this
right.
podcast?
Right. So the podcast isn't geared solely towards DMs, and it's not geared solely towards players. We're going to kind of mix and match and do all sorts of things, all sorts of kinds of topics that we think are valuable to all players of role playing games. It doesn't have to even be just Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to come up with some fun little segments that we're going to kind of evolve on the fly. We've got some weird ideas of fun things that we're going to do. And then we're going to dig into kind of like a main topic each episode to discuss something that we think needs to be discussed. and that will help all of our campaigns, both as players, as DMs, as we're building characters, as we're playing them in the world, as we're interacting with the world, that will make it more memorable, more fun, really sitting back and laughing or reminiscing to a great session.
That's right. That's right. So
Did I
it's
explain
not
that
going to be the
correctly?
same thing every time, right? When you listen,
No.
we'll have different rotating segments, different little stuff. We're going to talk about our experiences playing games. We're going to talk about cool books we've got. We're going to do some actual scenarios. We're going to sketch out little NPC ideas. Like there's a million different things John and I have put together that we're pretty excited to bring to you. There'll always be kind of a main topic that we center the episode around, but expect lots of variants, and basically whatever comes to our dumb heads is pretty much the answer.
Right. Yes. And Vince, there may be people that don't know us already on the internet. We already are on the internet. So if you've never seen Vince and I's other channels or our other shows, Vince, who the hell are we and why are we on the internet? So
Yeah, sure. So, all right, here's the very quick insight into me. So, I'm Vince Venturella. Hi, everyone. You may know me from such titles as my Hobby Cheating or my Warhammer Weekly, which are both miniature focused things. That's where John and I got to know each other through the
mhm.
wonderful world of miniatures, only to discover that we were simpatico on so many other nerd hobbies.
Yeah.
Though I've been painting miniatures for 27 years now, I have been role playing for 36 years. So it was quite a bit longer. This has been a huge part of my life since 1989 when I first started playing D&D, and I have played so many role-playing games in that time since then. I have a deep and abiding love for this. And here's my most important bona fide. You ready? You ready, John, for my bona
I'm,
fide?
I'm ready to hear it.
You might think, Vince, are you going to share the fact that you were on the interior cover of the 5th edition Player's Handbook as one of the consultants? No, that's not what I'm going to share, John. Okay. That's fine. That's relevant, but it's not my bona fide. My bona fide is that I have had the same group and that I play D&D every week, every Tuesday for 25 years. I have maintained a steady weekly group with rarely any misses of weeks for 25 years. So if you are someone who's like, well, the hardest thing is scheduling, hey, you can do it. And I'm going to show you how.
Yeah, that's a topic in and of itself. There is something that I have learned over the years of what makes a group really function and become a growing and a tight-knit D&D group. And spoilers, it comes down to scheduling, the boring stuff. I have not been playing with my current group for quite that long. It's only been 16 straight years. We
Yeah.
only play
Week.
yeah, we only play every other Sunday, as opposed to every week. But it is like clockwork. Come hell or high water, we are going to be rolling dice and we're going to be playing some D&D. And for me, I have been playing role playing games just under 30 years. I've been painting miniatures about 7 years, and that's what I do on the internet. My YouTube channel is called Ninjon, and I also have a podcast about miniature painting called Trapped Under Plastic. But there is a bunch of stuff in a deep-rooted kind of core why am I a nerd that is all tied to Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games. And so I got a lot to say about this, and how that even connects with our other shared hobby, miniature painting, may be its own contentious topic of its own in the future.
Oh, it will be a future show. It was only because I didn't want to scare everybody that we didn't do this one, episode 1.
Oh boy. Okay, Vince. So let's talk about spending money, because there's not much things that are more fulfilling than a session of D&D that everything seemed to go well. The only thing better is spending money in the hopes that it will one day become a fruitful session or campaign at the table. So have you bought anything related to the RPG hobby recently?
Well, John, I'm so glad you asked. I do love the great lie of role-playing games, right? It's like all you ever need is like one book and some paper and pencils and you're good to go. Maybe some dice.
Maybe.
No. Look, so I am a dragon, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't mean like I'm a
Literal.
polymorph dragon, sort of like presenting as an illusory human. I mean, much like a dragon, I like to collect my horde and then stare at them and paw at them and look at them. And so that is what I do with D&D books. As I mentioned, I'm on a second edition kick, so I've picked up a couple of new books. The first is this one right here. This is Demi-Human Deities. John, do you know what this book is right here?
Oh, I know that book.
This
Yes.
is a super classic. This is information on specialty priests and how you can be a specialty priest of all of your gods for your gnomes, your halflings, your dwarves, your elves, your dark elves, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Of course, it features the absolute best god in here, which is you might think I'm going to say some drow god or loath or something silly. No, 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 no. It's obviously this guy right here, Bear Van Wind Wanderer, the masked leaf, the forest gnome, the father of fish and fungus. Amazing.
Whoa!
And yeah,
Fish
he
father.
has fish father. Here's why he's the best, John. You see this picture? Hopefully our audience see this too. You see this picture? This little raccoon that's up here with this gnome? That's him.
He,
Okay, that's him.
he's a raccoon god.
No, well, he has a little raccoon pet, and this little
Oh,
raccoon will mess you up. The raccoon's name is Chiktika. It has its own name. It's Chiktika, and it's a very scary little raccoon. I love him. He's adorable. So, anyways, that's the first thing I picked up. Happy about that. Very excited.
it's
That's going to be used in my game.
one of the thicker soft cover books of the era, right? It's
Oh
a
yeah,
pretty
look
dense
at that.
book. Yeah. Yes.
Look at the
So many.
value,
I mean,
the
that is
lore,
like,
the rules, everything you want, son, right here.
yeah. I mean, that's knee deep in the Satanic Panic timeline too. So you come home with that, you know, that mom and dad are a little bit scared. What God you're worshiping now?
Absolutely. And all I can say is I am and always have been a worshiper of Bearvin, so like I'm here for him. That gnome is my new god. The other thing I picked up is this book right here, which is a little more DM focused. This is Lords of Darkness.
Mm,
So this is a fascinating book with, as you can see, an introduction by Ed Greenwood, creator of the Forgotten Realms.
mm,
So what this is, John, is this is a series of adventures that's organized in a really fun way. So it's organized, you're not gonna be able to really see, but it says like skeletons, ghouls, blah 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 blah, and it just like climbs up the ladder of undead into more and more powerful undead. So it's a series of adventures organized around that particular type of undead, where like the vampire is the big bad guy or whatever, right? So it's little mini adventures you can drop in there. This one's all about skeletons. This one's all about ghouls. Then you go up and up. This one's all about mummies, and so it progresses over the whole levels. You can stitch them together to run a whole little anti undead campaign, or you can just kind of drop them around wherever you want. So very cool little thing.
and you can even reskin them for your needs in your own campaign based on certain types of monsters that would be important for what you're already doing. That's
Right.
the kind of book that like that pays for itself, 10 times
Oh,
over.
100%. 100%. As a DM, the most important thing you're looking for is content. So you don't have to write the whole adventure. So you can just like write a shell or and then just be like, and then run this. Great.
Yeah,
Connect it to your story and then point at a book. The last book, John, why, what is this I have here? My goodness, why, this is Rain and Iron, John. Now, this isn't a role playing book. This
No,
is,
it
in
is.
fact, the newest book from Snarling Badger Studios, which just released on the 30th of May. This is Uncle Adam and I's newest book. This is a standalone sequel to our game, Rain and Hell, where now the demons have returned to Earth, hungry for human souls, only to find there are no humans to be found. Only soulless robots, but they still do what they do best, which is start destroying everything in sight. So yeah, pretty
Is that
exciting.
is that like the sequel to Wall-E? That's like Wall-E 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, the demons attack.
The demons attack.
Even Wally gotta load up on the guns.
I feel like Eva could hold her own, though.
Totally.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
confident.
So is that that's not an RPG though? It's a miniatures like tabletop.
Yeah, it's a
game?
miniature. This is a miniatures agnostic skirmish game, war game. But of course, as with all of our games, I honestly, it has a campaign mode in it. There are a lot of RPG elements in it. So, as with all games we write, I do tend to sneak in a lot of RPG elements and RPG adjacencies because I like being able to name your demons or your robots and develop them over time and build their character and stuff like that. So, that's all there.
I found that the games that you and I tend to gravitate towards have more and more of those campaign-esque, RPG-esque elements to them. I think it's
Absolutely.
just some kind of like it's a like internal box that we just feel like that cannot go unchecked, or maximum fun cannot be achieved here. You like how I like set you up on that question, like I hadn't ever heard of the game and have never played it before?
It was great. It was great. Yes. Even though you're literally listed on the first page here as a playtester.
Yes, yes. But I like how you swung that in there in the book that you got. As for me, the only thing that I find better when it comes to Hope Springs Eternal on a new book being the savior for all things role playing is actually kickstarting something. So spending the money, you don't even get the thing in hopes
Right.
that one day the thing will arrive at your door and then it'll be even better. It's like a birthday present for yourself, really. So I
That's why I
recently
only buy books that are 30 years old so you can get them immediately.
I need this now. I kickstarted the original Shadow Dark game that kind of
Okay.
became and went indie gangbusters about 2 years ago, and they just did a Kickstarter for a full campaign version of the game. So it's a full giant campaign book as well as other copies of their zines. They have a zine series which is a number of additional items and classes and adventures and stuff. And so they're expanding their zine line. And because I backed everything in the first Kickstarter, obviously I cannot have my collection be unfinished. So I backed everything on this one as well.
Very
That is
logical.
kind of a game. Shadow Dark is an interesting topic in and of itself, and I'm sure that we'll talk about it later. But long story short, I absolutely loved running that game, and I'm looking forward to that and seeing how much variety there can be in the types of RPG games we play, and yet still always hit the right notes to hit fun, but they change enough that you kind of
Yeah.
keep your group on their toes.
Yeah, it's I mean like we often say D&D like you say can I have a Kleenex? You know what I mean? Like it's become the sort of generic term for this thing. It's like I'm
Yeah.
playing D&D. Oh, what are you playing? Well, we're doing a Rifts game or something. Like it's whatever, right? Or a Shadow Dark game or this thing or
Mhm.
Blades in the Dark. Like, and we'll talk about a lot of different games over the course of this. Certainly, if you play D&D and that's the only thing you've ever played, you're going to find a lot here. If you play other games, you're going to find a lot here. Like John and I like a lot of different games, play a lot of different games, and I don't actually think it matters very much. I think it's just about what type of experience you want to have, and that's the kind of stuff we'll lay out and explore over the course of this for sure.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, we got all our purchases out of the way here. Another topic that I want to just touch on really briefly here today are little stories about our recent games at our own gaming tables. Has anything interesting happened at your gaming table recently, Vince, that you think is worthy of sharing?
Yes. So, okay. I want to share a story about frustration. Is that
Hmm.
all right? Can we talk about a frustrating moment?
I think anyone that's listening to this podcast and has not experienced frustration is just a liar.
Or they've only been playing for like one session. It's not
Right.
because it
Right.
takes about two.
Takes
Yeah,
about two.
so I'm currently playing in a campaign. I won't go into the full story of it. We're going to talk the specific story. But in this campaign, we're supposed to go save the world here soon.
Wow.
And
That's unique.
sure, absolutely, very very unusual story. But I mean, it's like really, really like we showed up and they were like, "You're the ones who are going to save the world." Like literally, people pointed at us and said that, and so we were like, "Okay, fine." So at any rate, in preparation for this, we went through this, I would almost call it like a mind palace series of challenges. You ever been in one of these like dream sequence challenge
Mhm.
things that are happening in a game, right? Where it's like a bunch of celestial spirits are like, we must prepare you for the travails that are ahead. Face these challenges, mortals, right? And so that's what we were doing. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you can picture this,
Yes.
and that's fine. It's a established trope. I have no issue with it. In general, it all kind of feels, I don't know, ephemeral. Like there's no actual stakes. The good guys are trying to prepare you for the end thing, so it's not like they're going to actually kill you. You know,
Do they
um,
like do they at least like run like montage music in the background? So at least I can picture that it's just like these are all our trials, and you got
yeah,
like Kate.
it's that kind of thing, right? Yes, it's Mr. Miyagi training up
Yes.
Daniel, right? Yeah, yeah, because eventually Johnny's there waiting to just
Yeah.
beat you
Yeah.
down. So, which is fine. Like a training montage is a great sequence. I love Rocky. I love the Karate Kid. No problem. The problem is we did this training montage we did this thing. There were like each little celestial god spirit had 3 trials, and there were 5 gods who wanted to put us through these. So this went on for a month. Like a
Ah,
month of game, week after week after week. We're in this ephemeral dreamland. And like by the 4th week, I was like, we better be done with this.
let's
I
get it.
am so done with this specific thing. And I think it goes to show like what's the lesson I drew here. And like I want to talk to the GM about it because I do think that communication, two-way communication, is the best way. That's the underlying message of everything we're ever going to talk about. If there's actually a problem in the game, then the correct answer is you go and you have open conversation with your GM or the other players. Period. End of story. If you
Hmm.
cannot have open dialogue, your group will suffer. All right. So that out of the way, I'm going to have a conversation with the GM, because the world's great. She did a great job. She ran a great game. But this was just like, she didn't think this part through of how the players would be stuck in this dreamland for so long. Anything you do, even a fun thing in an RPG, taken to too much of an extreme, just becomes too repetitive and boring, right?
Right.
You need variance in the experience.
Right.
The same be
If
true
you
if you're
have,
trapped underground in the same dungeon for like 2 months, whatever, that kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, if you had ice cream for every meal of your life,
Right.
it's not ice cream anymore. It has to be, a moment that you savor and is really good, and then you don't have it all the time. It sounds to me it's a lot. There's a big pacing issue there, is
Yeah.
which is, understandably, it is one of the most difficult parts to kind of figure out on the fly running a game of the correct pacing. For me having DM for, as long as I have, I still will catch myself in that the pacing conversations and trying to be aware of that when you're running a game, and like taking the temperature check of the players at the table, not even asking them questions, just looking around. You'll know, are they engaged, are they not? And
That's right.
oftentimes it's pacing. You got to keep it moving. I think the only big thing that I've learned that helps me in that is, I take a mental note and I kind of try to encompass that session and learn from that. So if I need to make tweaks, I have until our next session to kind of get us back where we need to be. Um,
Right.
Doing it mid-session is much more difficult. It absolutely can still be done, but yeah, it sounds like you just kind of ground yourself to a halt before you
Exactly.
got.
We felt like we were pushing towards the very end of the story, and then we're stuck in this holding pattern for a
Mm,
month of real game time, right? Like of us
yeah,
week after week after of real world time. That just it killed all the momentum. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like Luke is going to confront Vader, but instead, like he has a training montage with Yoda. That
yeah,
happens,
yeah.
right? But it's not the whole movie.
Yeah. An hour and 10 minutes of this 100 hour and 45-minute movie is just the training.
Right.
Yeah.
Just lifting rocks and running
Yeah.
through Dagobah. Like
I
that
just
would not be the same movie.
I just picture them like storyboarding this, and they keep pulling back the next storyboard, and it's just more pictures of him doing other stupid training.
Yeah, just
And like,
other dumb force things. Here's how you speed run. Here's how you do force healing. Here's how you do like, just like on and on and on. Like we get
mhm.
it. You're a Jedi. Okay, great job.
Yeah. In those things, it's like I like to do a beginning, middle, and end, or at least a beginning and end, right? Where it's like you introduce this training thing, we jump into a training thing, super cool. And then we montage what happened, even have them
Right.
make some decisions as part of the montage that does change some things. And then they go to the middle one. And then the changes and decisions they made affect this one. Same thing, last one, we're done with this in a session and a half instead of four.
There you go. Exactly.
Boom.
Exactly right.
All right.
What about
And
you?
this is not to like, ever poop on, the people that are in our games or running our games. So if they
Right.
ever listen to or watch this, um, we still love you. So I'm currently in Hope Springs Eternal mode, meaning I've just started a brand new campaign. And
Oh
as always,
boy.
the
Happy
big,
days.
oh my gosh, it's that puppy love moment where it's just like nothing is wrong. Your DM, I'm not DMing this one. I get to be a player. So that's always really exciting for me, as I'm usually about 60 to 75% of the time I'm the DM in our group. But to keep things copacetic and to allow no one to get burned out in any one role, we like to rotate. And you get that moment where the DM gives you just enough information about here's the basic situation, here's the basic understanding of what's happening in the world. Now make a character in that world. And per usual, I go completely off the deep end and to try to make a fun, ridiculous, unique character that will approach the game, approach the world in a weird or unique way. That just, make it fun. Not just
Yeah.
slapsticky stupid, like what's that from The Short? He's like Poop McDinglefart. I don't
Yeah.
I don't go Poop McDinglefart on my character creation.
Sure.
But if that's 11, I'm usually about a 7. So
Sure.
that's been really, really fun. It is our first time, or my first time even, playing D&D 2024. So the new and improved version of 5th edition D&D. And so far, great. We're 2 sessions in. I've noticed some differences. I've noticed some clarifications, some balanced stuff around the characters, but it still feels like 5th edition D&D in that
Yep.
regard. So seems good there.
No, I'm glad. So like on the scale of like funny characters, you're more at like a gnome named Pistachio Nevernut than you are at like Poopy McDinglefart. Is that what I'm hearing here? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm absolutely, and I don't mean to do this in a negative way, but I absolutely will put the DM on notice that I'm going to approach conversations with your NPCs in a way that's going to make you think and react on the fly. I'm
Yes.
going to challenge you not to say no to me, but know that I'm never going out of my way to try to break anything or to be overpowered. I just want this interaction to feel unique because of who we are as characters. And I kind of
Yeah,
tend
you're
to
not
push.
going to just go along to get along. You're going to be your character.
Yeah.
Right now, there is a level of, and we'll talk about this. Will all be future episodes. This will all be deep future topics. Right? There's a level of disruption that you could that can be like, because there's a lot of bad behavior that falls under. Well, I'm just playing my character, but that's not like. There is also, it's a spectrum. It's a line. Be commonsensical. Exactly. Be your character.
Right. Yes, I'm playing an illusionist, and in as opposed to going Jim Dark Magic, if you're an understanding of the Acquisitions Incorporated fame, where he's kind of a street music or magician, not a street musician, a street magician, a little David Copperfield esque. I think he draws a
Sure.
lot of David Copperfield meets a silly stand up comic. I'm a little more David Blaine. Like I'm a little bit more intense, but like not serious. He's just kind of, a little weird, and he's like very focused on the things, and then looks for the reaction as I like, puke up a goldfish and stuff. So, I have a familiar. He's a white dove, and his name is Kevin. And Kevin is he aids me a lot.
Appropriate familiar for a street magician. Yes.
Yeah. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun. It's also a magic school campaign a little bit, but to our DM's credit, he was so smart. He like gave all this interesting background. We showed up at school. We had the first evening where we were like in depth in all these different buildings or whatever. Like, oh, we're gonna settle in. We're gonna be at the school for a while. And at the pinnacle end of session 1, he completely spun it on his head, and we're not gonna be in the school at all. And I did not see that coming. He did the old bait and switch of
Gotcha.
this is who you are and this is why you're here. And it's I was just like, damn, he got me. And that's just such a good feeling. And it got so excited for session 2 of like, well, now what the hell's going on? We're on the run and we don't know where to go. And we're just kids, right? So
Yeah.
it's gonna be fun, and we'll see how long he can put up with my street magic.
I love it. I'll share it in a future episode of stories. But I am also playing in a Magic School game right now, ironically, because I have another game as well. So future thing. We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to Magic School and
That's right.
why it's so good. And I mean that even relates to a whole other topic, which is beg, borrow, and stealing from inspirational and very noteworthy things in pop culture or in fantasy books or comic books and that kind of thing. I mean, everybody knows Harry Potter, even if you've never read the books. Like there is an immediate like group understanding, and I think that the more the people around your table can all visualize in a similar way, the quicker things move forward and the more vivid they are at that table. So finding
Agreed.
those things that are kind of like core connections that we all would have from our own lives to bring into a fantastical world, like the more involved we're going to be in connected quicker. So
Totally agreed. Baselining it, grounding it, giving expectations, it all helps just accelerate the rest of the role playing, right? That's really what it is.
So great. We got like 6 more episodes we're going to have to record right after this based on these ideas.
Just like all these future topics. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to get through. That's just it. That's why I'm so excited about doing this podcast with you, John, is because there's like infinite number of topics I want to talk about in deep dive. So speaking of which, should we do our main topic for today?
I think we should. And we wanted to start off with a banger here in episode 1, because this is something that I think most or all of us have experienced. Even if you're new, you may have thought you were going about creating your character in the best way, or you've played with players that want their character, for lack of a better term, to just be Superman. You know, they're just awesome. They could be awesome at everything like Superman, or they could be so singularly focused to be the world's best XYZ that nothing else matters, and they always do the XYZ because the numbers say that they are awesome at XYZ. That's it.
So yeah, it's the basic topic here is like you shouldn't make broken characters, but there's so much to unpack from that. Look, there's a whole lot of channels out there, John, dedicated to optimizing your character, right?
Yeah.
So are we
Optimizing.
saying all of those channels are wrong? Is that what we're staking out in episode 1?
Oh, wow. Yeah, 100%. I mean, even the channel name is optimizing, or optimized is part of the title of the video.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I watch those videos because sometimes you need a bit of direction when you got to make character choices of what are the good spells. They all kind of seem kind of good at this level. I could see value in these other ones, but the number addition ran the numbers, and this spell is way better than those other spells. So always take this spell. And I'm immediately hesitant whenever I'm watching a video when it turns things into black and white. It says ones and zeros.
Yeah.
You do this or you're suboptimal. And
that's right.
That it's kind of a snowball effect that makes me a little bit nervous, and it takes away really what the core of what these games are. It's not about optimization. It's about telling a unique once in a lifetime story that will only happen in this entire universe this one time. And it is your table. It is your players. It is your DM. It is that story. It is those series of adventures that create this narrative that will never be replicated ever again. So why would I want to play a cookie cutter thingy out of a book, out of a movie, out of a video, right? It just makes me so upset that that's where we're driving.
The net listing of the character. Yeah. I mean, look, so, okay, I'll play devil's advocate for a moment here because I don't want to turn off the entire audience immediately. I'll let me defend this. Okay. So on one hand, what I like about all those optimized channels and things that help you optimize your character is that, look, most people who are playing the game haven't been playing for 30 years like we have. That's just reality, right? And especially when you're a newer player, the choices in this game, whatever it is, by the way, I'm not just talking about D&D. I mean, you could pick anything, right? The choices can feel overwhelming. And there are choices that will be better in certain situations than others, right? But that in certain situations thing is often what's missed. But the reality is, if you're playing a character, combat's usually a big part of a lot of games. Not all games, but a lot. And a lot of optimization often focuses on being effective in combat, which I understand. It is a major part of a lot of games, especially but not limited to D&D. And so wanting to actually have a certain efficacy in that role, there's nothing wrong with it, right?
No.
So if someone takes the build, but then puts their own character on top of it, their own story, their own everything on top of it, that's great. That's perfectly fine, especially for someone new who just look, it's a lot. You can't go through everything. You don't know, you don't understand why this particular spell is actually better than this one, right? Or so on and so forth. Why is hypnotic pattern so strong, right? If you understand D&D well, you understand that hypno pattern is crazy stupid strong, Okay. And just like an amazing spell to take. But you have to have knowledge of like how combats work, how monster saves are structured, like what does these status conditions mean? Like you got need to know so much stuff before you can make that choice. Whereas if you can watch a video and someone is just like, hey, look, new player or somebody without the experience or somebody who's never played a wizard before, maybe they only played fighters, right? Whatever. Hey, look, hypno pattern, it's good. Trust me, use it, put it on your sheet. And they're like, okay, great. And so, as long as you understand I don't mind optimization as long as it's optimization toward a purpose that fits with the character you have in mind. So, what I mean by that is like you can optimize to be a skill monkey, you can optimize to be great in social situations, you can optimize to be great at like exploration and trap finding and stuff like that, right? All those things could be optimized for. And generally, D&D characters or other types of group games assume that each character in the group is like pretty good at something, right? So like it's okay to be good at that thing.
Yeah.
The reason I put that you can't be Batman on it, corollary to that, unless you're playing a superhero game, then you can probably be Batman. Because if you're playing a superhero role playing game, as I have played many different ones and many different times, then you can be Superman or Batman probably, because like that's probably just one of the things you can do. But anyways, um, the reason in most like D&D type games you can't be Batman is because Batman is, even though he has the Bat family, he's often singular.
Mm-hmm.
Like, John, here's a question. Put Batman onto D&D stats. Okay? Like put him in D&D stats. What stat of his is not 18 or 20?
Charisma?
Maybe charisma. Maybe that's like a 16 because he's Bruce Wayne. He can be pretty
Yeah,
charming,
that's true.
right?
Also, charisma is tied to intimidate, isn't it?
Yes.
And
Yes.
damn it, so I just foiled myself because he's
Yeah,
really
he's
good
very
at that.
intimidating. That's my point, right? This dude has what skills doesn't he have proficiency in? I don't know. He's got all of them. He's
Yeah,
athletic, he's acrobatic, he knows science, he knows, like I guess probably the magic stuff. That he knows a little bit about magic, but he generally has like magic characters he'll go ask questions of. That's the only
right.
thing he doesn't know, right? But he's brilliant.
Alfred will figure it
He's
out for him, so it doesn't matter. He
yeah,
doesn't need
his willpower is unbreakable. He's
it.
charismatic as all get out. He's just like he's tough as he can hold his breath for like 3 minutes and 17 seconds in space, in the vacuum of space, because he regularly trains and tests by doing that. Right? He is the world's greatest detective. And we can just keep going, right? And you can't do that in D&D because even though Batman will tell stories where he has Robin or the Red Hood or Catwoman with him or whatever, right? In a D&D game, you're part of a group. Other people need to be good at things. You can't be the singular hero.
Right.
Otherwise, the game feels really boring for all the other players because they never have a moment to shine.
Yeah. And you can't, I mean, and even if, well, from a stat, point allocation system game like D&D where you're not rolling your stats, where you could magically just hit the hot dice and you could roll for a Batman. And
We
point
roll our
allocation,
stats at my table. We roll all stats. Point allocation is for losers. You roll dice.
I
Continue.
have, I have a whole other story in the future about that where we had a guy that cheated, so we had to go to point buy. He no longer plays with our group. Cheating was a part of that. There's a whole lot of deep-seated issues behind that, but um,
We make a
but
thing of it, by the way. We get the whole group together and after or before game, and we roll dice one person at a time, and everybody cheers for them and yells for them and celebrates and is like, oh, when a roll turns out bad. Like we make it a group event. It takes like 30 minutes and it's incredible. Can keep going.
and dice rolling for your stats is an even like you're setting yourself up to not make the kind of characters that we're worried that people are making is
That's
because
right.
we're looking for characters with flaws. We're looking for characters that have quirks about them that make them unique and approach the world a different way. And using the skeletal system of your stats and even your class and abilities as just that, a skeleton, a starting point, not who your character is very, very valuable. But let's say that you have well-rounded stats and you're using point array. You kind of want each person on your team to have something that makes them unique, that makes them
Right.
stand out, that makes them a valuable part of your party. The problem can be is all right, I have built my character where his stat arrays are balanced, but I have one tool. And fortunately for me, this tool can be used to break open any situation.
Sure.
And I will keep using the one tool over and over again in every situation because that is just how my character tries to approach the world, because that tool is so overpowered in relation to what the game can throw at me, the world can throw at me
Yeah,
at
sure.
a balance level. And that's where things get like, well, you're just kind of running your own game and we're just a bunch of your henchmen at this point. And you just keep
You don't want
approaching
that.
everything. You don't want that. No matter what that is. Right. Um,
Yes. Quick story on that note. I'll tell. Let me tell. A lot of this, by the way, a lot of this podcast is going to be relation of this truth through narrative, because I don't know how. Like, this is a role playing game thing, so we're going to talk about stories. So back in third edition of D&D, I played a character I really really loved. Okay, he was a rogue modern barbarian. I loved him so much. He's one of my favorite characters of all time. The GM killed him well, this GM was very bloodthirsty. He doesn't run games for us anymore. Nice guy, love him. Doesn't run games for us anymore. He killed that character along with basically the rest of the group, exempting one character who had a magic trick to get away. So it was a near TPK,
mm,
and there was no way to recover the bodies. Blah 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 blah. Everybody's gone. So I lost my favorite character of all time, and I was angry. So I was like, and he's like, "Well, look, you can come back with whatever you want." I was like, "Okay, fine." I was pissed. So I came back with a Vow of Poverty druid, okay,
mm,
who had like this crazy poison raptor pet. I do not remember what it was, and I would shift myself into this crazy poison raptor. And I soloed all of his encounters from that point forward. The other PCs were just slow me down. Like, they were a detriment to me because I'd have to go stop what I was doing in murdering the entire encounter and save them as they got themselves into trouble. They were like helpless children next to me. Okay. And this character was so ungodly, unstoppably powerful that, like, in the GM effect, after a few adventures, realized this was the case, and so would just send me on side quests. Like, we were trying to defend a town, so the GM had a whole pirate fleet attacking the town, like this massive fleet, and I'm like, I'll handle the fleet, guys. Just stay in town. So I go out and I like just fight 100 ships full of pirates, and that's like no problem. I can easily do that, right? But he knows that, and he anticipates me doing that. And meanwhile, he has like one ship teleport in, and so the PC's getting a fight with like the actual fight in the town while I'm wrecking the entire pirate fleet. Okay. And then I retired that character because it was just unfun. It wasn't fun to be that guy, right? That's story number one. Like, when you take so much of the spotlight onto yourself, because, and I did it because I was angry. I retired that and came back with a normal character.
that really is a Batman character all the way down to the Vengeance Pact, truly.
Yes. Yes. And and by the way, like, I retired that character, came back with a normal character who then the GM killed.
Of course.
Okay. And I'm like, buddy, you're not encouraging me to be nice here and to play along. If you're just gonna keep murdering us when I'm trying to play normal characters, okay, then, like, why am I not incentivized to play the broken character? So that's number one.
Right.
Like, we broke the cooperative storytelling pact there,
Mm,
right? That was what was broken. So at any rate, there's one story. Here's a separate one on this in defensive optimized characters. There's a guy in my regular group who loves to be combat's his thing. Okay.
mm,
You read like Knights at Dinner Table, right? You know, the dude with like the
mhm.
+12 sword or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
That's him. Okay.
Okay.
That's this dude. He's played with me for 25 years. He loves combat. It's his thing. He just
Uh-huh.
likes being good at it. And he always makes combat monsters. Like, every character will be a combat monster, period. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Different classes, different takes, always that.
Mm-hmm.
And what it's become is a really nice, it's a, what do I say? It's like a, gas release or something. Okay. On like a pressure valve. Yeah. On the rest of the group, because we don't have to worry about making combat optimized characters anymore. The rest of the group.
Ah.
Okay. We can make whatever we want. And like, some of us will also be decent in combat. Some of us will be whatever, right? And like, if one of us wants to be the combat machine, then that's fine. We just have two combat machines and they know what they're up against. Like, they just talk to that player beforehand and say, what are you doing? I want to play one too. So it's just, again, open dialogue, right? So that way
Yeah.
they're not stepping on each other's toes. They'll do like different things. One will be ranged, one will be melee or something like that, right? And what it's done is meant that like other people can just like step back. They'd be like, yeah, okay, I fight. That's fine. I'm here. But like, we just know this. He's got it. He's got it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's cool. We can play goofy, weird characters and do different stuff or be good at skills or do these different things. He's got the combat thing. And so it just freed the rest of the group. We never have to worry about it. So you could turn it into an advantage if it's an open part of the discussion. You
Yes.
see what I'm saying?
And,
Like, again, this is something we openly talked about at the table.
and as long as that player that's playing like the combat focused character is not putting the rest of your group on a timer. And what I mean by
Right.
that is, okay, we're in this situation. It's a little bit tense. We're trying to talk our way out of it. We're trying to get more information. We're trying to figure out clues. We're trying to interrogate, blah, blah, blah. And they put you on the 30-second timer where they're like, you know what? I'm going to bash everyone's skull in if you can't get the
Right.
answer really quick. And I have played with players that play that way where it's, again, they have a hammer and they use the hammer for as a screwdriver, as a saw, as a pencil, every tool possible, the hammer is used for that. And as long as that player gives everyone else their own ability to play out their character and interact in their strengths and give them their moments to shine, it's
That's right.
great. And that's a whole other topic of the kinds of kind of how you gain satisfaction at the role playing table. And there's old articles written on this, and we're going to dig into it in a future episode. But different people, personality types, and what they get out of the game can change a lot. And again, communicating that is important. The problem is that if you just whatever your character is if you're like, all right, this is their stats, this is their class, these are their abilities, and then that's the character, that's where we're really running into problems, because you have to make that shell of a character fill up the void of not having a personality, a relatable way to the world, a backstory that is digestible in 2 sentences or less,
Right.
evolving how they deal with relationships, and how they go about interacting with the world. And if you just make your character that shell, then you almost feel obliged to make them an really optimized, pushing or going over the line of overpowered character, because it's the only way you can get the satisfaction is through
Yeah.
that. And that's the dangerous thing. And that's the thing I really think that we wanted to focus on here is you finishing the character creation section in the book and your page is all filled out, or you're
There's
on
like
your
numbers
app.
everywhere. You got numbers in all the little boxes.
Yeah, all the numbers are filled out. That is, you just completed the first and least interesting part of making a
Right.
character.
That's right.
And now you can be inspired by that. What your vision of the character is and who he or she is can really, dictate what that numbers on the page look like. But that shouldn't be the end all be all.
No, and you can like what we're really dancing around here. Let's put a fine point on this.
Mm.
Okay? Because it's not just like mechanically you're good at everything, right? Like
Mm.
that's a problem often, all right? Again, unless you're playing like some weird ultra high powered game where like everybody's all good at everything, which is fine. Like again, there are some superhero games that work like this, right? Like if you're
Mm.
playing like a sort of exalted, Justice League style game where it's like you've got Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman and whatever. Like you're
Mm.
all really good at a lot of things, right? And that's fine. But that's like sort of a very high powered game. In most games, you're not having that experience. You're playing like people.
Mm-hmm.
And people aren't good at everything, but it's not just mechanical flaws, it's emotional flaws, weaknesses, lacks, blind spots, things you don't notice. That's what's important to also be thinking about. To me, that is just as valuable, or in fact, more valuable, understanding that stuff, because that's what's going to actually let you experience the game in a deep way, right? Like, you don't connect well with other people, so you don't really tend to take their feelings into account. Like in the game, I'm saying that might be one of your character's flaws, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk to people or interject, you're kind of rude and stuff like that, and sometimes that causes problems. Great, that's a cool flaw, or whatever, right? Like again, there can be just so many of these. And to me, that is so important because it gives you space to grow, right? What we're really dancing around here is that when you're a character who's like completely emotionally mature, whether you're mechanically good at everything or not, okay? If you make your character and you're like a fully formed, completely rational, totally well-adjusted, like just ready to go human being who has no real flaws to speak of, okay? What's your growth part? What does that actually look like? What's your arc over the course of the campaign? What do you fail at and then learn from and then grow into? Uh, Nothing. You've
Nothing.
closed all the doors.
Yep.
You know, you've robbed yourself of the most vital and important thing, which is to actually experience real change of your character as they grow and become someone in the world over the course of the campaign.
Yeah.
And that only comes from flaws.
Yes. Because if this was a movie or a book or a TV series, it would be a
Exactly.
terrible one if there is no character growth and there is no failure and there is no learning from that and there is no, trying to grow and relying on each other as well. Something I see a lot is that the player or their character just feels like, well, I can take all comers. Then they don't interact with the other characters or even the world very much because they feel they don't have to. And then you get a very two-dimensional character. And it is just, Bob Smash. And so situation happens, Bob Smash. Well, you know, it's just not going to be interesting. And this is not just about like us asking you to be selfless for the fun of others. This is actually
No,
for your own fun. You are going to have
absolutely.
so much more fun if you have a character that never learned to read. Okay.
Sure. Sure.
Right. Maybe
Yeah,
he
yeah.
can, maybe he can speak 4 languages fluently, but based on his background and his trials and tribulations as a child and what brought him to here today, he never learned to read. And put in those situations where time is of the essence and we've got to go through these notes of the alchemist's desk before the poison gas is released. Oh no. what
Yep.
what symbols you're scrambling to the wizard? What are the symbols I should be looking for? What does it look like? And they have to try to explain what letters are the kinds of things. Like
Love
you
it.
create these situations and then maybe he befriends that wizard and helps him learn to read, and you get ye old cat in the hat. And like there's just all these moments that become memorable because of a fault, because of something that is something that they're struggling with or they haven't yet become adept at.
I love this so much. Do you ever watch the show Will Trent? You familiar with this
No,
show? Okay, it's a good show.
no.
I like detective shows. It's a detective show. I bring up Will Trent because the main character, Will Trent,
Mm,
is like, yeah, I know, is within the show. He's a very competent detective. Like he is an exceptionally good detective with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the GBI. But he's also dyslexic.
okay.
Okay, like strongly dyslexic. He cannot read.
Ah,
Okay. And they portray it as a challenge that he has. His friends and coworkers are well aware of his challenge, right? And the show like there are situations he gets in where it causes him real problems, right? But he has to sort of overcome this issue, and it makes for a better character. It's not that he's not good. Like when he's a detective, he's very good, right? He's good at finding
mm-hmm.
clues and solving mysteries and doing all the detective stuff, except when something comes down that like he has to go over a bunch of paperwork or something. Then he can't do it, right? He has to have somebody else help him with that. And so the point being is that flaw humanizes him, makes him interesting, so on and so forth, right? And we could go through so many main characters in shows like that. The ones that are compelling are the ones that have something they have to grow, that challenges them, that they have to overcome, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that from if you're like, okay, I have a Vincent John, I have a character in a campaign I'm playing right now. Is it too late? Or I'm about to start a new campaign. Can you give me some tips on how I go about this? And
Love it.
the other question I'm hearing here is, Vince and John, this sure sounds like you just want us to all be acting majors and you want us to be actors at the table when I'm not an actor and I don't do voices, and that's not what brings me fun at the table. Also, very valid and real questions. So, which one do we want to tackle here first, Vince?
All right, let's talk about where you. Yes, first of all, I so agree with everything you just said. Okay, so let's just start there. I don't want anybody to get outside their comfort zone and stuff like that. Let's start with the you have a character. And actually, I don't care if it's your first adventure or your 50th adventure. I think that it's perfectly reasonable to do this. And you don't need to like whipsaw and be like, oh, suddenly I'm a monster. Like, you don't need any of that, right? We should just talk about the things you can draw off of for inspiration. Okay. So, like, one, your stats, right? If you have a low stat, think about how that might manifest certain challenges, right? So you have a lower charisma, so you tend to be standoffish, or maybe you communicate in short, terse sentences, or, you know, whatever. Again, there's so many things that could flow from that, right? Or you have a low wisdom, so you tend to occasionally make some bad decisions. That doesn't mean you need to be a jerk in combat and like start a fight, like, oh, I'm a crazy person, so I just start a fight. No,
Yeah.
no. But it does mean that at night, when everybody's partying in the bar, maybe you just go try to wander back to the hotel alone, right? And because you don't think about the danger of just being alone and drunk in the middle of the city at night. Yeah, it's fine. I'll be okay, right? It means little things like that. You can open the door to more adventure, not close doors with your
Right.
flaws, right?
Yeah. It is all about really what you're doing here. And this goes down to a deeper issue of what our games are, is cooperative storytelling. And we're going to use
Yes.
that phrase a lot and dig into this at this podcast more. But what you're offering, when you can really create a strong impact on the other players at the table, DM, as well as the other players, of they know who you are. And it doesn't need to be super deep. It just is like, yeah, they kind of just like, they get lost in the city. They don't have a good like visual memory recognition, and they get lost and they go into shady areas of town and they don't even realize that they're not supposed to be there at night. And so,
So good.
yeah, that's their person. What you've done is you've made the job easier for your DM to think up interesting situations or to be prepared for those weird situations that your character finds himself in. And you've made that DM's job easier, and you've affected how the campaign is going to run solely by
Absolutely.
the character you play. And it's not just, it's no longer playing a video game. It's no longer playing something exactly out of a book that is every person that plays this adventure will play the exact same one that you're playing. It's you are creating the story with who your character is. And not making that overly complex is, especially when you haven't done a lot of this, is really important. But pick one thing,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
about them that really makes them stand out and makes them unique. And then that will be easier for you to play, for you to think about, oh, this is kind of the thing that I do a lot. Well, how would that manifest itself in this situation? And
Yeah.
then roll with that. And then what you'll find is, as you do that, it will become more than just that one thing. That one thing also kind of bleeds over into this other thing where that low wisdom connects, or the fact that you got your left hand cut off, at a lower level, and you have to like find other ways to do things like, tonight we need to all play instruments, pretend to be this musical quartet, and you're just using your hand to try to hit a drum because you don't have any.
Yeah. Sure.
All these situations that can come up based on that, and then the depth will happen naturally.
Yeah, I want to rapid fire some other ideas, some other sources of inspiration, by the by. And again, you can use this at any point in time. So, like, and the reason I say it doesn't matter if it's later in the game is because how many times in novels do characters reveal something about their backstory late in the third act? We're gonna go for the emotional third act reveal then. Okay, fine. Right? I mean, so much so that it literally was a trope in Deadpool versus Wolverine. Like that's just it. Draw on your background. Like if your game had you pick some kind of background or you wrote a background, okay, what did that background have? Do you have dead parents, a dead friend? Did you lose people? What does that mean? Maybe you have trouble connecting with other people or trusting other people or whatever, that kind of stuff, right? Here's a fun one. Think about your own challenges and shortcomings perhaps in life and how you might manifest some of those in the same character. I will share a very quick story, John.
Okay.
My true favorite character I've ever played is a paladin named Kavlin. I played him in all sorts of these. We did this long, long marathon, just lots of little marathon games. That'll be a topic for future. Took about over 9 years. Okay. I love this character. And the reason I loved the character so much was because he, as a paladin, especially when he started, his background was that he was kind of bad at everything and that he was a failure and that he was very insecure. And
Mm,
that's me. That's
mm,
me. Like he embodied all of my own insecurities and failings and feelings of not being good enough and all of this that I struggled with throughout my young life. It was very easy for me to play him because I was channeling how I felt walking down the hallway in high school at 16. Okay. But the difference is he gets to have a growth arc, right? And become like, become something more like through the expression of the game. I had to do it the hard way, just live 30 more years or whatever, right? Um and so the point being is that like you can draw on your own self and just put a little bit of that in there. What scares you? What do you feel shy about or insecure about or whatever? I'm not asking you to lay your soul bare. I'm asking you to draw on a little bit of that inspiration and take a piece of that and put it into the character. It will feel very natural then.
yeah. Anytime that you can draw on either real world or firsthand experiences, and they could be, from a sibling that you've witnessed struggle with stuff, or a parent,
Yep.
or a good friend, or a teacher or mentor you were close to, and that kind of a thing. Like, the easier it is to play that out at the table because there's some kind of connection to your core as a person that will show itself, kind of surprise yourself how you're able to do that in more nuanced ways, in ways that aren't like cranked up to 11 so everyone feels like you're overacting. The more that you can connect the core emotions and stresses or emotional ties to things, the better it's going to be. I actually, this made me think of one I really quick too, for a character that I also really enjoyed and tied back to myself. Also a paladin. Um, my character was a paladin that just really, really, really wanted to be a chef, and his family. It was known that that was the expectation, was that he had to become a holy knight, and he had to go out and prove the
Oh, I
worth
love it.
of their family, and to uphold their honorable name. And he just didn't want that. And so when he gets into combat after like being forced into this group with these other vagabond, little people to like defend themselves, he obviously doesn't know what the fuck he's doing because he doesn't care about that as much. He's like, he can go through the motions, but instead of wearing a full plate helmet, it was more logical for him that when he went out to go out in adventure, he uses a walk, like the cooking walk,
Yeah,
upside
sure.
down, upside down as a helmet with strings on the handles tied underneath. And so his helmet is a walk for the entire time. And throughout the campaign, he actually like loses his paladin powers and like becomes this amazing chef and this like reworked into an alchemist character because that is
That's
just who
incredible.
he finds his passion, and he decides to go for that once he's physically removed. And then when the DM pushed us back into my kingdom where I had to like confront my family about like I never wanted to do this, so awkward and so great. So like, yeah, like putting those little things and like letting those be the foundation of who your character really is. It, these characters that you and I are talking about right now, they're definitely not the most powerful characters we ever played, but we can talk about these characters way more years and years and years later
Oh my
than we
God. I have
can.
so many stories I could share. And they're all relating to, like growth opportunities
Yeah.
where the flaws manifested or the character got a chance to act into the flaw, right? To grow in some way, to change in some way. And to answer your other thing, which
Mm.
is, are we just telling people to be theater kids? No, definitely not. Never. That will never be the advice of this podcast. This is an official hard no from me. But like you don't need to first person it. Like, let's go back to the person who makes bad decisions about like going out in town at night, right? So you could have that and be first person, right? You can go out and then have the interactions and be like, uh, talking to people along the way and just being silly as you walk into the dangerous part of town. Like you could do all that, right?
Mhm.
But you could also just third person that. Like that's how you could just say like, well, my character is gonna go home like this, and I don't really pay attention. So if I wander into the dangerous area of town, oops. Like you could just that's just standard third person narration. You're not in character, you're not doing anything, but you're still heeding your flaw and playing accordingly, and opening the door to the GM exactly as you said. So it's not about like sitting there and being like, no, mother, I never learned to read. It's not about that, right? Like that's fine. If that's what moves you, then go nuts, right?
Yeah.
But it
If you
doesn't
want to
have
make
to be that.
Zoolander, you want to make Zoolander the character,
Yeah.
you can. But that's asking a bit much of you at the table to play a
Right.
Zoolander.
Yeah. So like you can do that if that's cool, if that motivates you. Great,
Right.
have a good time. If it doesn't, and you just third person narrate what's going on, i.e., say my character does this, I go do that, right? Something like that. Great, then okay, cool. It literally doesn't matter, right? It's just about being aware of those things and then opening the door to those opportunities.
Yes. And I think one thing that will like catch a bunch of people is like feeling like this weight that I need to every time my character says anything or acts out or interacts in any way, it needs to be held true to this flaw or this interesting aspect to them. Don't put that weight on yourself. You shouldn't have to interact with everything with this one dimension of who they are. The rest of those things will kind of flesh themselves out and they'll naturally happen. So don't get in your own head to where you don't act. Just sometimes that third person narrative, think about the movie Stranger Than Fiction, where the narrator is narrating
Yeah.
his life, right? And so you can separate yourself and not feel like you've got to do silly voices and act by being that third person narrator. And you're narrating, Will Ferrell's life here. And it's like little did he know that when he walked down that alleyway, he didn't quite realize that there were rats scurrying everywhere and there were some hunched figures in the corner next to all the broken down crates. They peeked up their heads and looked at him. Now I did an extra thing right there. I actually like did a little side DMing, which is another thing I love to do as a player. Where like I like set up the situation and then make the DM deal with it with the world. But you're playing out without having to play the character of how that some part of their personality that's really unique and interesting plays itself out. And you just say, well, this is kind of what I would observe. If I observed my character as a third person, this is what I would see in this weird situation. They kind of squint their eyes as they look down both directions of the street, not sure which way they came from. They kind of shrug their shoulders, pick one, and start walking. Like,
Yep.
okay, that tells the same thing. And you don't have to have that weird internal dialogue that sometimes we as characters is like everything we would think, we have to say out loud, or the world doesn't know that we think this way. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'll kind of leave like I think my final thought on this, as we're probably drawing to a close here, is something like this. That character I mentioned, Cavwin, which I will talk about God so many more times in the future, I'm sure. Um, ended up ironically becoming like that campaign went 1 through 20. Okay.
Woo!
And well, yeah, we'll do a whole thing on like high level play and why I'm better
Mm,
than you because I play it a lot. At any rate,
mm,
the you being the amorphous you, Vu. The that character by the time I was into the teens levels had become Superman.
mm.
Okay. Like at the beginning, he was truly bad at everything and just was not good. But over time, the character grew and through like set upgrades and magic items, just all the stuff that happens to adventurers, right? He became just bulletproof, like just unstoppable. Okay. And like to the scene there to the point where there was a scene where I had to go rescue a dog from the realm of Zugtamoy. Don't worry about it. It was a mechanical dog. It's not important. And I jumped in and rescued the mechanical dog. And when that happened and I was floating back out, like flying back out of there, Zugtamoy herself, Demon Lord Zugtamoy,
Mm.
confronted me. and was like, "Don't leave," and like tried to grapple me, and she couldn't. Like I was just immune to being grappled. I'm immune to all this stuff, and so I was just like, "No, I don't have time for this," and just left. And just like she couldn't hurt me, she couldn't stop me. I just left. Like this demon lord was no threat, right? But the character was never boring to play. Like he was immune to everything, basically, as it were. But the character was never boring to play because the real challenges he had the whole time were still emotional challenges, relationship challenges. Like he was in a very, very, very difficult relationship, like romantic relationship with with an NPC and all this stuff. That's what made it compelling. That was what it was, right? Like, who cares about all that stuff if everything else is actually there? If the other, like, because I had all those flaws and shortcomings and everything to build off of to create story around, the character remained compelling the whole time. And I felt that actual reward of, wow, he took this long arc and went from being bad at everything to good. And it felt more rewarding than anything else, right? Because he had also grown emotionally over that same time period.
There's got to be a really fun middle section in there where he starts to become really good at things, but he still doesn't believe that he is.
It
It's
absolutely was the case. It
yeah,
for a long time.
yeah,
No, that was a huge deal because it took him forever to accept that he wasn't worthless.
yeah.
Yes,
Yes. And then the times, even when he's like super powerful, you're still rolling dice sometimes. Sometimes you roll a 1 or a 2 on the D20
exactly.
and he whiffs. And then he's like, yeah, of course I did.
Just reinforces all the negative emotions. You
Yeah.
got it. Exactly, dude. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's so
So
fun.
like my final point is that with your characters, I like playing characters that are good at a thing. Okay?
Hmm.
Like that when it comes to me, they're like, "Oh, we've got a dungeon full of traps." And it's like, "That's cool. I'm playing the trap guy. This is my thing. I'm good at,
Right.
doing roguey stuff or whatever, right?"
Right.
There's nothing wrong with optimizing your character to be good at a thing. In fact,
Absolutely.
that is very rewarding for the same reason the flaws are rewarding. Your characters should be good at a thing. You should feel when the DM turns the spotlight on you, you should have the opportunity to feel good about what you can do and what you roll and all that kind of stuff, right?
Hmm.
But your character, that can't be your whole character. If your character is just, I'm good at this one thing, that's not a character. You've
Right.
got to have the other side of it too.
Right. Yeah. That is so key. And I think that there's some parts of like when you're building the character, there's some tips that you can have to kind of my cat just knocked down all of my miniatures. I don't know if anyone heard that. Whatever. I 3D printed a whole bunch of Trench Crusade miniatures back there. Now they're on the ground and she's going to play with them. Anyway, so there's a lot of things that you can do to set yourself up for success for this. And first thing that I do is like I get the inspiration of who the character is at their base level. One of two ways. One, I really want to play this kind of a class. So I'm looking
Yep.
at
Sure.
the player's handbook. I really want to play a rogue or a fighter or a cleric. Okay, I know I want to do that. I either get inspired by that or I get inspired by a character idea. Okay, maybe it's the dyslexic character. Maybe it's the character that's lived on the streets with within a goblin tribe their entire life. Okay. And what does that look like? Well, who kind of character is that? Right. Either way is fine. But then once you get that initial core, I think then you look at the background as well as like what is their unique flaw and what is the thing that they're good at, right? And then from there, you can just build the character, fill out the stats on the sheet or whatever. Because if you have that in mind of who are they basically, what is the thing that they struggle with, and what is the thing that they are proud of or that they're good at, that will help you inform all the decisions you make throughout the character creation process. And that way, what's on the paper and then what's played at the table feel more in line. And it's not a big separation or a big stretch. But I think it kind of deep diving into who that character is as a person from the get-go will only set yourself up for success as you get to play at the table.
Agreed. And like the relevant part here is by deep dive, we don't mean write a novel, right? You can write a very John has to go tackle a cat. Um, you can write very simple sentences. It can be one sentence, two sentences of backstory, of strengths, of flaws, of all of that. It does not have to be some crazy, long, ridiculous, like novel with the trials and travails and tribulations of every moment of your life. The reality is that a couple of sentences and prompts and stuff like that is just as good to get you going. It can take up a paragraph or two, 100 words or less, you could do it, right? And you will then discover and fill that out as you get into the game itself.
Yeah, that is a really good point, because I have players that I've played with that struggle in playing a character at the table. So their answer was to create a 4-page like background story. And all you've done in that is you've set the sights so high that you can no longer even know where to begin, how to play them, because there's just too much there, right?
Right.
And you've also painted yourself into a corner as to how that plays out at the table, because all the decisions and data points are already established, and you can't really have any free form to like let it happen organically, or really maybe somehow figure out how your parents died when you were a kid. You don't need to know the answer right now, because maybe based on how the campaign goes, there's a better solution to that
And in
really
fact, they're not dead. They're still alive.
they've been there the whole time.
Yeah, sure. Twist.
Let's give us some breathing room to have fun with this. But give me 3 sentences that make me want to say, okay, yeah, I want to see that character at the table. That will be memorable. And memorable doesn't need to be over the top, but memorable is, here's the way to check it. After you've played 3 sessions, can the other players around your table describe your character, who your character is, in 1 sentence? If they can't do it, that means that character has not showed themselves. And that description should have nothing to do with what class you play.
Yes, they have to be able to describe you without reference to class or species. Yes, that's right.
That's it. What makes them a unique person? Because all of us in this world are unique humans. And what makes this life so interesting is interacting with and going on our own kind of storyline of our lives as unique individuals. The same things that are compelling in all the entertainment and media that we consume, and this is another one of them. So just doesn't have to be over the top, but it needs to feel interesting and unique to that character. And don't make them just be able to be awesome at everything. Please. That's boring. That's boring.
Correct. Yeah, be not good at some things. It'll be a better table.
Not good. And you know what? That's scary, because we're like, I'm playing a role-playing game where I get to play a freaking superhero. You know, I'm able to slash dragons in half. Why would I, like, you know, be scared of spiders? Because spiders are gross and furry and nasty. Why should I be allergic to shellfish? Because we're playing the fucking pirate campaign. But guess what? Things are going to get
true nightmare. Like, trapped on this beach full of clams and lobsters or whatever. I don't know what shellfish are.
You're just trying
crabs,
to,
I guess, probably.
You're just digging for tubers and trying to find something for sustenance, and everyone's sucking back oysters, and you're like, "Ooh, I can't do it."
All right, John. Anything else you want to leave him with, or is it time to go to the outro?
No, I think that this was just kind of a fun way to kick off this podcast for us to talk about, give you an idea of the kind of things that we're going to get into and silliness that we're going to have. Because there's a ton of topics that we want to talk about on this that we both learned from, and things that we're like in the midst of kind of our own education. Because that's the best thing about the role-playing game hobby, is that you will never be a master. You will never know it all. And ever thinking that you are is the first sign of your own downfall. And so just enjoying the process, enjoying the learning, and playing it out at the table. And a lot of that starts with the characters we play. So set yourself up for a really engaging, fun, memorable character that will have memorable moments with the other memorable characters around the table. And the whole game is just a lot more smiles and a lot less people staring at their fucking phones the whole time. All right. That's what we're here for.
That is the number one goal. Less staring at your phone. All right. Well, I think that's all we have to share with you today. Hey, check us out on all the socials. Everything's down below. You can follow us on all the major social networks. Don't forget to, like this, subscribe to our channel, rate, review. We'll have new stuff coming to you every other week. basically. So look for a new podcast every other Tuesday, probably. That's basically what we're thinking right now. We'll see if that sticks. If this came out on a different day, then it'll be every other week on that day. But right now that's what we're thinking. So yeah, whatever. Things could change. Also we want to get you involved in the comments below. Don't forget, give us your own topics you'd like to see us tackle in the future, thoughts you have on anything we talked about. Like, we want to hear your voice, and make sure that we're taking it into account and sharing it in future episodes, both for topics and feedback and just everything. So please drop some comments down below on what you thought about the show, what you'd like to see in the future. But don't forget to rate and review on your podcast catcher if you're over there. But ultimately, what I want you to remember is when you're faced with an unknown challenge, no matter what it is, Fireball is always the right answer. See you next time.